Greetings, medical wildcats. I'm Joseph Guggenheim. I'm a 1972 alum of the medical school. And April has traditionally been the month for alumni weekend, but because of the pandemic, we won't be having it this year. So what I'd like to do is give a presentation on one of the long forgotten aspects of our campus history. Many of you may remember this picture on the right, this iron gate. Prior to 1983, it was in front of Thorne Hall at the intersection of East Superior and Lakeshore Drive. And now it's behind Abbott Hall in the canyon formed by Abbott Hall and Lakeshore Place, the old furniture mart. But let's talk about where the McKinlock name came from. In the early 20th century, as early as 1908, William Dyche, for whom Dyche Stadium was named, a former business manager of the university, former mayor of Evanston and a pharmacist, and an alum of the Northwestern, recommended uniting all the professional schools in Chicago north of the river. At that time, the medical school was on the south side at about 22nd Street. The law school was near the courthouse. Our hospitals, Cook County, Passavant, and Wesley were scattered around the town. The trustees agreed in unifying the campus, but the question was, should we have one campus in Evanston for all aspects of the university, or two, the main campus being in Evanston and the professional schools being in Chicago? Trustee Nathan McChesney urged that the campus be built for the professional schools near the intersection of Chicago Avenue and Lakeshore Drive. The university at the time was university president was Walter Dill Scott, who was a psychologist and specialized in advertising. So he had no trouble with the PR aspects of a capital campaign. He started a fundraising campaign called the Campaign for a Greater Northwestern with the goal of raising $25 million in 1919. Now this is $25 million in 1919 dollars, not 2021 dollars. The goal was to raise 25 million. But with his skill and with the connections that Dyche had, the goal was achieved within 1 year, and they raised 25 million. With that money, in 1921, the university purchased 9 acres in the area where the med school is now. This was known as the Farwell and Fairbank tracts. Farwell were two brothers. They owned the largest ranch in the world in the Texas Panhandle. One of the brothers was a U.S. senator, and the other one was in the wholesale and retail business in the Chicago area. Fairbank was the namesake for Fairbanks Court, the street that runs through the medical center now. James Gamble Rogers was chosen as the architect for the new campus. And here you can see one of the early plans for the campus. The green arrow in the lower right-hand corner points to the name of James Gamble Rogers and his associates who designed the campus. At the red arrow, you can see the Montgomery Ward building, which was going to be the headquarters for the medical school and the dental school. And at the purple arrow, you see the name Alexander McKinlock Memorial Campus. So here again, the name McKinlock pops up. So who was McKinlock? The groundbreaking for the new campus was held in May 1925. And in this old picture, the second person from the left is Mrs. Thorne, who donated the funds for Thorne Hall. To her left is Mrs. Ward, who donated money for the Ward building. And the couple to their left is the McKinlock, Mr. and Ms. McKinlock. And behind them, the tall man is Walter Dill Scott, the university president. So here they are at the groundbreaking ceremony in 1925. Where the McKinlock campus was underway. This is a poster. I don't know what the purpose of it was, but to advertise the McKinlock campus. This poster was published in 1923, preceding the development of the campus. The first building, the Ward building, was erected in 1925. But what building is this? Maybe it's a poetic license for the Ward building and near elevated lines? I don't think so. The McKinlock campus was named after George A. McKinlock Sr., pledged $250,000 to the university. and the campus was to be named in honor of their son, George Alfred McKinlock, Jr. A wrought iron gate was placed at the entrance to the campus on Lakeshore Drive in Superior. This decorative wrought iron gate was designed by Samuel Yellen, who did some other wrought iron work with the architect James Gamble Rogers. According to Dr. Leslie Airy, who wrote the definitive history of the medical school, this was the largest wrought iron gate in the United States. It was erected in 1930, originally at the corner of Superior and Lakeshore Drive, and cost $25,000. If you look closely, you can see it says Alfred McKinlock Memorial Campus. McKinlock Sr. Started his career at age 20 in Detroit, working for the telephone company. He became cashier and auditor, and then at age 30, he took over Central Electric Company in Chicago. He later sold this to General Electric. Mr. McKinlock also had extensive real estate holdings. He was a trustee of Northwestern, according to Who's Who in Florida. The family kept a residence in Florida. That's the only reference I've seen where he was a trustee of the university. He gave $500,000 to Harvard for a dormitory in honor of his son. His son was a Harvard graduate. At the same time, he pledged $250,000 to Northwestern for their new campus in Chicago. And McKinlock Hall at Harvard still stands. The McKinlock family had some very nice real estate holdings, residential real estate. In their early days, they lived at 616 South Michigan Avenue and also in the South Prairie Avenue area. These were the neighborhoods where the wealthy lived at the late 19th and early 20th century. They built a house in Lake Forest called Brown Gables in 1901. The house was demolished in 1929, and they moved to Lake Bluff for the rest of Mr. McKinlock's life. They also kept a residence on 999 North Lakeshore Drive, which is at the S-curve at the Oak Street Beach, just north of the med school. They had a summer house in Bar Harbor, Maine. They also had a winter house in West Palm Beach, Florida, named Casa Alejandro, which was featured in a Country House magazine. Their son was Alfred McKinlock, George Alfred McKinlock Jr., who went by his middle name, Alfred. He was born in Chicago. He went to Harvard in 1912, where he played football. His one moment of glory in football was he caught an interception and ran it back for 6 against Carlisle. After graduation, he joined the ROTC at Fort Sheridan in June 1917. And this is his picture from the Harvard yearbook, his freshman year, or I'm sorry, senior year. A few months later, after his ROTC training, he was deployed to France in October, and he was awarded the Croix de Guerre Medal and Distinguished Service Cross for his accomplishments in the military. He was shot by a sniper in France at Berzy-le-Sec in July 1918. Nobody knows who shot him. Nobody knows where he was buried or who buried him. And this is a picture of his mother at a women's military training camp in 1916. Letters that he wrote to his parents indicate that he was a mama's boy. His mother went to France after 10 months of not knowing where their son's body was. She went in May 1919 to find his body. She found a grave marked McKinlow, but saw his helmet hanging from the cross on the grave with his name McKinlock inside the helmet. The remains were cremated and taken to Lake Forest Cemetery, where he was buried, and this is his grave marker at the Lake Forest Cemetery. You can see his World War I helmet on top of it. If he had lived, he probably would have taken over his father's electrical business. An interesting aside is that after he died, he was a spiritual bridegroom of Muriel McCormick. Muriel McCormick was the granddaughter of John D. Rockefeller and Cyrus McCormick, who invented the Reaper. two of the wealthiest families in the United States. She claimed she had met Alfred McKinlock in a seance, although she had never physically met him. For over 2 decades, she carried on this romance with the late Alfred McKinlock. She and the McKinlock family became close friends. She spent a lot of time at the McKinlock's summer home in Maine. And after over 2 decades of claiming that Alfred was her bridegroom, she married a living man at the McKinlock summer home, and found out that it's better to have a living husband than a dead one. So what happened to George? Well, the family lost most of their fortune during the Great Depression. So they were unable to fulfill their $250,000 pledge to the university. The university was kind enough to return what the family had already donated, over $155,000. The newspapers say that Mr. McKinlock left an estate of $1.57 million. After his death, the life insurance company, New England Mutual, filed suit against his estate, claiming that he had borrowed $1.1 million secured by all his properties. Because he could not fulfill his pledge in 1937, workmen chiseled the name Alfred McKinlock Campus from the gate, the old picture that I had on the very first slide, and substituted the words Chicago Campus. The gate is now almost behind Abbott Hall, which you can see in this picture, and you can see the Lakeshore Place, the old furniture mart, on the left side of this picture. So the gate is still there, but it is no longer known as the McKinlock Gate. So the McKinlock campus name was dropped in 1937. And even through the 1940s, the campus was called the McKinlock Campus by many. And this is the current picture of the detail of the upper part of the gate. And you can see where just above Northwestern and just below University, you can see where it previously said Alfred McKinlock Memorial Campus. I'd like to thank Mr. Ron Sims, who was previously with our Galtner Health Science Library, for furnishing me with a lot of the old material in this talk. So unfortunately, we won't be able to get together for Alumni Weekend this year, but hopefully next year we can get together to renew old friendships, meet new ones, and see the newest developments on our campus.